Welcome to the Where in the World Geography series on the United States and capitals, plus physical features where students memorize and engage geography through repetition and discussion. Digital student geography workbooks are available for purchase online at bit.ly/WITWGEO. Paperback coming August 2020. Today we are learning about rivers in eastern and central United States. But first, review time of the last 6 lessons. To the map we go! Here we have the entire United States of America. I'll give you a little time to answer each question on your own, followed by the reveal of the geographical point to see if you were right. Let's zoom in. First, we'll review the Northern Appalachians. What is the name of this mountain range? If you said White Mountains, you would be right. Next, what is the name of this mountain range? If you said the Green Mountains, you would be right again. What is the name of this range in New York called? If you said the Adirondacks, you would be correct. Name this mountain range. If you said the Allegheny Mountains, you would be right again. Now on to the review of the Southern Appalachians. To begin with, we don't have a mountain range but a valley that runs through all of the Appalachians. What is this valley called? If you said the Great Valley, you would be right again. Next, what is this mountain range called? If you said the Blue Ridge Mountains, you would be correctamundo. What is this smaller range called? If you said the Great Smoky Mountains or maybe just the Smokies, you would be right. Now for our last mountain range within the Appalachians that we have learned about. What is this beautiful mountain range called? If you said the Cumberland Mountains, you would be right. Now there is one mountain within the Blue Ridge Mountain Range that is the highest elevation west of the Mississippi River. What is the name of this mountain? If you said Mount Mitchell, you would be correct. Heading west. What is the name of this prominent mountain range that is the second largest in the whole world? If you said Rocky Mountain Range, you would be correct. Next, what is this mountain within the Rocky Mountain Range located in Colorado called? If you said Pikes Peak, you would be right. Not too far off is this 14er, the tallest mountain in the Rockies. What is this mountain called? If you said Mount Elbert, you would be right. Moving further west, we have a mountain range that is mostly in California, with a small portion located in Nevada that casts a rain shadow, making Nevada the driest state in the U.S. What is this mountain range called? If you said Sierra Nevada, you would be correct. Within the Sierra Nevada is the tallest mountain in the lower 48 states. What is this mountain called? If you said Mount Whitney, you would be right. Moving now to the Northwest Mountains. What mountain range is this that goes through a bit of Canada, south through Washington and Oregon, reaching into Northern California? If you said the Cascade Mountain Range, you would be right. What is this stratovolcano called found in Washington State? If you said Mount Rainier, you would be correct. Moving just a little bit south, also in Washington, what is the name of this stratovolcano that blew on May 18, 1980? If you said Mount St. Helens, you would be right. Now we come to the great state of Alaska, the last frontier and within the largest mountain on the continent of North America. What is the name of this mountain? If you said Denali, you would be correct. On to the Great Lakes plus Niagara Falls. To begin with, do you remember our acronym? HOMES. Homes. Our first letter in our acronym is H. What symbol do we need to erase in order to put our H? If you said diamond, you would be right. Now that we've put our H in, what does H stand for? If you said Huron, you would be correct. Our second letter in our acronym is O. What symbol do we need to erase in order to put our O? If you said star, you would be right. Now that we have put our O in, what does O stand for? If you said Ontario, you would be correct. Our third letter in our acronym is M. What symbol do we need to erase in order to put our M? If you said circle, you would be right. Now that we've put our M in, what does M stand for? If you said Michigan, you would be correct. Our fourth letter in our acronym is E. What symbol do we need to erase in order to put our E? If you said square, you would be right. Now that we've put our E in, What does E stand for? If you said Erie, you would be right. Our final and fifth letter in our acronym is S. What symbol do we need to erase in order to put our S? If you said spiral, you would be right. Now that we have put our S in, what does S stand for? If you said superior, you would be correct. And finally, in between Lake Ontario and Lake Erie, straddling the border between New York in the US and Canada, is what notable physical feature? If you said Niagara Falls, you would be correctamundo. Now we will review the bays and sounds that we learned about in the last lesson. First, we have a bay that is 200 miles long that connects to the Atlantic Ocean. What is this bay called? If you said Chesapeake Bay, you would be right. Next, we head north into Canada to this very large body of water. What is this bay called? If you said Hudson Bay, you would be correct. Third, we go west to California State. What is the name of this bay? If you said San Francisco Bay, you would be right. Going north now on the west coast, what is the name of this sound that borders both the United States and Canada? If you said the Puget Sound, you would be correct. Lastly, for our final stop on the review train, we go to the East Coast, south of Chesapeake Bay. What is the name of this sound? If you said Pamlico Sound, you would be right. Now that we are done with review, I am going to introduce you to this week's lesson about 5 rivers in central and eastern areas of the United States. Back into the U.S. map we go. First, we have the St. Lawrence River that is a part of a significant waterway system called the St. Lawrence Seaway that you will be learning about. Although on your maps you simply need to indicate the St. Lawrence River, which has its mouth on the east end of Lake Ontario of the Great Lakes, as you see here on this map. Next, we have this historically significant river that serves many booming cities today. This is the Ohio River. The Ohio River feeds into the mighty Mississippi that is the longest river in the United States. Fourth on our list is the big muddy Missouri River, the second largest river in the U.S. And finally, we will be learning about this important tributary river, the Arkansas River. Now off we go to learn about these important rivers. The St. Lawrence River is a vital waterway that goes from the east end of Lake Ontario, meeting up with the Atlantic Ocean. This river is a part of an extensive seaway system that is called the St. Lawrence Seaway, that is represented by the entire map detailing the seaway that goes from Lake Superior into all of the Great Lakes and out to the Atlantic Ocean. The entire seaway system is about 2,340 miles long. In the city of Duluth, Minnesota, at the seaport of Lake Superior, is the beginning of the St. Lawrence Seaway, and as mentioned, it becomes the St. Lawrence River on the east outlet of Lake Ontario. The St. Lawrence River flows for 740 miles to the Gulf of St. Lawrence, then to the Cabot Strait to the Atlantic Ocean. This seaway allows ships to travel to the industrial and farming areas that surround the Great Lakes, leading out to the Atlantic Ocean and beyond. So why is this river and the connected seaway something to learn about? Just another river that is connected to just another stream to another and on and on. Well, what do people use waterways for? Since ancient times, waterways have been used as the life source for communities, and today is no exception. As you are going to learn, rivers are used for the transportation of necessary resources that contribute to a healthy economy as well as a healthy community, not only for farming but also for industry. In the case of the St. Lawrence River and the Seaway, it provides the navigation for those resources for the United States but also Canada. The St. Lawrence Seaway is, in part, a man-created system. This seaway contains both natural waterways such as rivers and lakes, as well as waterways that are man-made, which include locks, canals, and dams. Locks are created where two areas of a waterway are at two different levels. When a boat passes from one level to the next, they are closed into an area that is called a lock. Within, water levels rise or fall. This brings the water level even with the water where the boat is passing through too. Canals are waterway channels that are built to reroute water from a river or stream for various reasons, including the ability to allow boats to navigate around dams and rapids. Canals are also utilized for routing water for irrigation of food grown on farms and for purification for us to use for our water. Because of the different uses of canals, they can look different based on what purpose they are serving. As you can see in this map, there are two locks and two dams. They work together to regulate levels and route flow of water. Dams are barriers constructed across rivers, keeping the water held back. While there are quite a few different designs out there, they serve a similar purpose. Once the dam is built to hold back water, the water needs to go somewhere. The water is rerouted to a place called a reservoir. These waters within the reservoir can be used to harness electricity. The water is also routed through canals for various purposes, as you have learned. Although some dams serve to produce electricity, many are used to help protect land downriver from flooding and to use the regulated water to hydrate farms during dry spells. These locks and canals are managed by both the Canadian government and the United States. Together, these two governing bodies advertise the seaway as part of Highway H2O. The construction of this seaway system began in 1954. In addition to building canals, locks, and dams, workers deepened many of the waterways. The seaway opened to ships in 1959. That was the St. Lawrence River and the connected St. Lawrence Seaway that has served and continues to contribute to our country, Canada, and beyond with imports and exports. Now, on to the Ohio River. The Ohio River has exciting tales to tell from known history. To begin with, in the southwest corner of Pennsylvania is a city called Pittsburgh. Within are two river tributaries called Allegheny and Monongahela. These tributaries come together, creating the start of the Ohio River flowing northwest out of Pennsylvania. then abruptly turned southwest to join the Mississippi River in Illinois, 981 miles from its beginning. The state's name Ohio came from this vital river and means good river. The name came from the Seneca Indians that once was among the 5 tribes of the Iroquois League of Nations which occupied New York, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. Others along the Ohio River Valley were mound builders. Before European colonization, the Mississippian culture built numerous regional chiefdoms and major earthwork mounds in the Ohio River Valley. These include the Angel Mounds close to Evansville, Indiana, along with the Mississippi Valley and to the southeast. The mound builders included the Osage, Omaha, Ponca, and Kaw tribes that lived in the Ohio River Valley. The pressure from the Iroquois League of Nations promoted the migration of the mound builders west of the Mississippi River in the 1800s to the area now known as Missouri, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. In the late 1700s, the Ohio River served as the southern boundary for the Northwest Territory before providing the boundary between 5 states. It was one of the central passages for pioneers during the westward expansion in the realization of manifest destiny. Shortly before the American Civil War began, this river served as part of the separation between the free states and slave states. The saying, "sold down the river," started as the cry of Upper South slaves. They were carried down the Ohio and Mississippi rivers to be delivered to plantations that grew cotton and sugarcane in the Deep South. Before and during the Civil War, the Ohio River was called the River Jordan by slaves crossing it to escape their bondage and find freedom in the North via the Underground Railroad. Depending on where they were coming from, they might have passed through the River Jordan a few times in their dangerous journey. It is estimated that there were many slaves, in the thousands possibly, that found freedom for themselves across the Ohio River. Going back in time more than a century before the Civil War and before the United States had formed, from 1754 to 1763, the Ohio River Valley was the center of great conflict. France and Great Britain went to war with each other in what is now called the French and Indian War. You would think that by the name of this war that the French were fighting Indians, but this wasn't the case. Indians fought as allies alongside the French against Britain, although some tribes sided with Britain. This war sparked a worldwide conflict known as the 7 Years' War, which was fought on 4 continents and the Philippines. The height of the conflict was between 1756 to 1763. Before the battle began, both France and Great Britain controlled territories in North America. Britain had the 13 colonies that would eventually become the United States. France had what was referred to as New France, which was the area east of the Appalachians around the Great Lakes into what is now eastern Canada. Both countries desired to control fertile Ohio River Valley for all its resources and were willing to fight for it. Even though France got help from its Native American allies, Britain won the war. Their victory gave Britain control over most of the colonies in North America. That is, for a while, until the American Revolutionary War. But that is a different, but related story. Before becoming president, Thomas Jefferson, in his Notes on the State of Virginia published in 1781 to 1782, wrote, "The Ohio is the most beautiful river on earth. its current gentle, waters clear, and bosom smooth and unbroken by the rocks and rapids, a single instance only excepted. This exception that he spoke of is still the exception today. The lower Ohio River is interrupted by rapids known as the Falls of Ohio, where the water level drops 26 feet over 2 miles, making this portion of the river unnavigable for boats. However, in the early 20th century, McAlpine locks and dam were built, creating a shipping canal that bypassed the rapids. With this detour created, commercial navigation from the forks of the Ohio River in Pennsylvania to the mouth of the Mississippi River is smooth sailing. Later, during most of the 19th century, and especially between 1829 to 1870, U.S. westward expansion utilized the Ohio River for a convenient way to travel by pioneers going from western Pennsylvania. After reaching the mouth of the Ohio River, settlers would then hop onto the Mississippi River and travel north to St. Louis, Missouri. There, pioneers either continued on the Missouri River, some continued on down the Mississippi, whereas others took to overland routes, such as the Oregon Trail. During this time of Western pioneer movement, there were river pirates. These pirates concentrated their devious efforts along the Ohio River as well as the Mississippi River. They chose places where protection from law enforcement was simply absent. One such man by the name of Samuel Mason operated a gang out of Cave-in Rock, Illinois. He would stop travelers on their way down the river, stealing their goods and destroying their boats or selling them, and sometimes even killing their victims. Today, the Ohio River is a source of drinking water for over 3 million people, and serves large cities including Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Cincinnati, Ohio, and Louisville, Kentucky. These cities also use the river just as generations and civilizations before to transport products such as coal, oil, steel, and many manufactured goods. That was the Ohio River. Now, we follow that Ohio River down to the mighty Mississippi. The Mississippi shares some of its history with the Ohio River, but is distinctly unique. Firstly, the Mississippi in North America is the longest river. Native Americans get credit for the Mississippi name, which means Father of Waters. Intimate knowledge of the great river translated into incredibly vibrant writings of Mark Twain. As Twain learned to pilot steamboats on the Mississippi, he wrote about his initial perspective in this poetic excerpt from the essay 2 Ways of Seeing a River, from the book Life on the Mississippi by James R. Osgood from 1883. Now when I had mastered the language of this river, and had come to know every trifling feature that bordered the great river as familiarly as I knew the letters of the alphabet, I had made a valuable acquisition. I still keep in mind a certain wonderful sunset that I witnessed when steamboating was new to me. A broad expanse of the river was turned to blood. In the middle distance the red hue brightened into gold, through which a solitary log came floating, black and conspicuous. In one place a long, slanting mark lay sparkling upon the water, In another, the surface was broken by boiling, tumbling rings that were as many tinted as an opal. Where the ruddy flush was faintest was a smooth spot that was covered with graceful circles and radiating lines, ever so delicately traced. The shore on our left was densely wooded, and the long, somber shadow that fell from this forest was broken in one place by a long, ruffled trail that shone like silver. And high above the forest wall, a clean-stemmed dead tree waved a single leafy bow that glowed like a flame in the unobstructed splendor that was flowing from the sun. There were graceful curves, reflected images, woody heights, soft distances. And over the whole scene, far and near, the dissolving lights drifted steadily, enriching it every passing moment with new marvels of coloring. I stood like one bewitched. I drank it in a speechless rapture. The world was new to me, and I had never seen anything like this at home. Many, like Twain, have been in awe of the Mississippi River that begins its long journey at Lake Itasca in northern Minnesota, then flowing south, passing through St. Paul, Minnesota, then nearing St. Louis, Missouri. The Mississippi is joined by the murky Missouri River. Farther along, at Cairo, Illinois, the Mississippi meets the mighty Ohio River. The Mississippi disperses into the Mississippi Delta that empties into the Gulf of Mexico near New Orleans, Louisiana. This journey from the mouth to its end is 2,350 miles. The Mississippi River is home to millions of birds, including ducks, geese, and swans that glide along the Mississippi during spring and autumn migrations. The pathway taken is called the Mississippi Flyway. Common fish in the river include walleye, catfish, and carp. As with all rivers in the world, the Mississippi has a long history of trade. Today, it continues as one of the busiest commercial water routes in the world. Products transported along the river include coal, oil, steel, iron, and grain shipped from many Midwestern farms. As you may remember from the French and Indian War, the French lost. Before the war concluded in 1762, France ceded its Louisiana territory to Spain in return for help in the fight. Later, in 1800, Spain and France signed a secret agreement to exchange the Louisiana territory for territories in Tuscany. Finally, in 1803, France sold the region to the United States. This is referred to as the Louisiana Purchase that made this territory and beyond part of the United States. Well, that was the Mississippi River. Now we go on to the Big Muddy, the Missouri River. The Missouri River is the longest tributary of the Mississippi River and second longest river in North America at 2,315 miles long. It is formed by the coming together of the Jefferson, Madison, and Gallatin rivers in the Rocky Mountains about 4,000 feet above sea level at Brower's Spring. It flows initially northward, then southeasterly until it meets the Mississippi River just north of St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis was the point from which President Thomas Jefferson sent Lewis and Clark to explore the new Louisiana Territory in May 1804. 2 years later, when the explorers returned in September 1806, The city became the gateway to the West for mountain men, adventurers, and settlers that followed the path of Lewis and Clark to the new frontier in a movement called U.S. Western Expansion. A monument commonly referred to as the same name, Gateway to the West, was built and dedicated to the American people to symbolize this important piece of U.S. history. It is the centerpiece of Gateway Arch National Park and has become an internationally recognized symbol of St. Louis. The Missouri River runs brown. That is, until more recently. The Missouri River carried vast amounts of soil through the entirety of its course, giving it the nickname the Big Muddy. However, today, dams trap much of the dirt in the upper part of the river, allowing the lower part of the river to be far cleaner. As with all rivers you've learned about today, the Missouri serves as a shipping lane. Tugboats move cargo on barges on the Missouri River between the mouth that connects to the Mississippi all the way to Sioux City, Iowa. Well, that was the Missouri River, the longest tributary of the Mississippi River. Now we go on to the Arkansas River, our last destination for today. While the Arkansas River is much smaller than all the other rivers that you have learned about today, it does serve an important tributary of the Mississippi River. Its source comes from the Rocky Mountains in Colorado, flowing 1,469 miles east and southeast, going through the states of Colorado, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. Once, in 1859, gold was discovered in Leadville, Colorado, which is near the river's source. This brought thousands of people seeking to strike it rich. Unfortunately, the easily recovered placer gold, which is gold that can be panned for out of the river, was depleted rapidly. In the early 19th century, a portion of the Arkansas River formed part of the border between the United States and Spanish-occupied Mexico. Mexico pushed Spain out of Texas, and Texas, for a short time, was part of Mexico's land. Then, in 1836, Texas became its own country until it was decided to cede its autonomy as a self-governed state and become part of the Union in 1845. 16 years later, Texas seceded from the Union and joined the Confederacy along with 10 other states and fought in the Civil War. During the American Civil War, both the Confederate and the Union tried to prevent the other from using the Arkansas River and its tributaries as a route for moving forces and supplies. As the war drew to a close, with the North winning over the Confederacy, federal troops arrived in Texas to restore order on June 19, 1865. When Union Major General Gordon Granger and 2,000 Union soldiers arrived on Galveston Island to take possession of the state and enforce the new freedoms of former slaves. The Texas holiday Juneteenth commemorates this date. Since the 1800s, a portion of the river in central Colorado is known for exceptional trout fishing and fly fishing. Other than fishing, though, the Arkansas River is enjoyed by many locals and tourists alike for rafting the rapids, lazily floating down, and enjoying the scenery while vacationing on houseboats and camping nearby. That was the Arkansas River, our final destination for this week's lesson. Your homework for this week will be doing your initial worksheet for the eastern and central U.S. rivers that includes all of today's lesson. Then, on 2 separate days this week, complete 2 of the worksheets called Memorization through Repetition, which includes the geography learned today plus the last 6 lessons. Next week, we will be learning about 4 more rivers and a very salty lake in central and western portions of the United States. Bye for now.